My true belief, if I didn't give it everything I had every day, literally 7 days a week, 365 days a year, I wouldn't find the success that I was desiring. The weakest person in the room is the one that just nods their head and pretends they got it when they've got no idea. If you had balance, you would never find true success. Where now I say if you don't have balance, you're not a successful person.
Our guest today is Jonathan Hallinan, founder, managing director of BPM. Over the course of 25 years, Jonathan has made a lasting impact on the skyline of Melbourne. He is venturing out further abroad into the US market now with a range of restaurants and hospitality offerings. In 2019, Jonathan was noted as one of the top 250 richest men in the country. GQ Australia noted you as a worthy successor to Harry Triguboff in 2015, testament to your influence and thought leadership in the property industry. Jonathan, welcome to video.
Thanks for having me, Jack.
Good to be here. The greatest power a man can possess is the power of vulnerability. This is a quote by you. Take me behind those words.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one because people often think about vulnerability as a weakness. I really see it as a strength. It's a bit like I often have meetings in my boardroom where I'm presenting a new idea or some new tax idea I've got or something that's quite convoluted and not easy to grasp. And often when I'm explaining it, I look across the room and there's many people just nodding their heads, and I know they don't understand. Not completely, not into the intrinsic detail that I need them to be able to understand it, to then be able to deliver it for me. But the person that maybe sits in the room and says, I don't understand, puts their hand up and says, sorry Jonathan, I need you to explain it again, that's the person, that's a very vulnerable thing to do in a boardroom. And but that's the person that I would trust. That's the person I believe is going to grow the most, and I would take along with me, choose to take along with me. And that's come from a point of vulnerability, which I see. They're the strongest person in the room. The weakest person in the room is the one that just nods their head and pretends they got it when they've got no idea.
Interesting. Obviously, BPM's been a 25-year project. When did this kind of philosophy around nurturing vulnerability develop?
I think it was just through the experiences when I started to, realise that people were really just giving me what I wanted to hear. They weren't telling me their truth. They thought they needed to know everything and make out they were the best at everything, and then I would believe that. And I found myself being pulled to the people that wanted to learn the most or were being vulnerable and open. And I saw that they were the people also that just grew the most in their life, grew the most in from their business life as well. Were the ones that were willing to be honest, willing to put themselves out there.
Over the last 25 years, which we just touched on with BPM, you obviously started with the construction side of the business, development and all of that. Now you've moved across hospitality, obviously hotels. We're here at Shadow Play today. You're building in South Bank, which has a 12-storey hotel.
A 10-storey hotel.
10-storey hotel. And you're also got a tailoring business as well. You've been noted as a man who's willing to sacrifice to achieve great success. What has changed in the way that you conduct business recently?
Yeah, look, I used to always say that if you had balance, you would never find true success. Where now I say if you don't have balance, you're not a successful person. And that really stemmed from my true belief, if I didn't give it everything I had every day, literally 7 days a week, 365 days a year, I wouldn't find the success that I was desiring. But with that came so much sacrifice. I missed out on so much of, my 20s and 30s, relationships and travel and just all the amazing life experiences that you should have through those years, which make you an evolved, interesting person. I didn't have. So, I actually came out of my late 30s and realised I was really naive in a lot of ways and hadn't had the life experiences and had missed out on a lot of life because of the sacrifice that I'd given to get success. And I kind of look at success now a bit differently. I always thought I needed to achieve more, have more money, more buildings to feel successful. And, the way I look at it now is that success comes in lots of different forms. And unless you have a number of them, you're not successful at all. So if I was advising somebody now, I certainly wouldn't advise them to not have balance in their life or not have lots of life experience, and that you don't need to sacrifice it all to have success.
And there's a few people that you work with in a mentoring capacity regularly?
I've always got a number of people I'm mentoring. It's something I've done for the last 10 years. It's the way I say I can give back. I can teach people some of the secrets of success, where I think I got my success from and why I've got it. It's not that I think I'm the smartest guy in the room, it's just that I think I've done things a little bit differently.
Let's talk about some of those things you've done differently.
Sure.
BPM's marketing and branding direction has been very bold and very intentional as well. From the outset, it's always something that I've personally looked on and gone, this is very well considered, but it's also designed to be different and to stand out. What were some of the things that inspired you to take the direction that you have with BPM?
Look, it really started when I was developing the Bayside area of Brighton. I was looking at all my competitors' advertising, or even just the general housing advertising market. It was all bright and light. It was getting reds and greens and whites and brighter and brighter and brighter. I thought, how can I stand out so that when you're searching through the papers back then, or even on the net, how could you be flicking through and immediately recognise it as one of my projects or one of BPM's projects? So I started tinting over the top of everything with a dark colour, and I realised that then the feedback was, oh, Jonathan, the minute I see the dark colour, we know it's yours, we look into it more, because we know it's really design driven. And then from that I started to look who else was marketing was along those lines, and I realised the fashion world were, very provocative and doing things in a darker, moody, sexier way. And so it was about not running with what everyone else was doing things a bit differently. And it was also, I was passionate about it and loved it and interested in it. And, so I brought that fashion world of marketing into the property world.
Going to bring up a couple of articles that you penned yourself recently or in the past few years. The Price of Success and The Perfect Addiction. What do those terms mean to you?
Look, it's a little bit along the lines of what we were talking about before, that because I believed that I needed to sacrifice everything to have success, I became so focused and so driven on it that it did become an addiction. Nothing else really mattered to me day to day other than trying to get that fulfillment that I wanted and desired of being a successful person. It's a pretty dangerous place really to be, because I defined myself by my success. If you define yourself by success, then if you're not successful, then you end up feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to be worthless. I remember thinking at one stage, I think it was through the GFC, that I had a lot of troubles getting finance at the start of it, and that I looked at the business and thought, geez, this might actually fail. It was a lot of doomsday in the media, and I remember thinking it was almost the same feeling as if I was going to die. I could relate it to that I'm going to work to potentially disaster. It was catastrophic.
That's how tied up your being was.
Yeah, because I defined myself as that.
Jonathan.
Yeah, if I wasn't successful, then I was nothing. So again, very dangerous place to be, and not something I'd recommend to be. You don't want to be addicted to anything really. You want to be in charge of it, and I think that's something I've spent a lot of time on in the last few years, is working out what is going to fulfill me, what is most important to me, how to live a more balanced life and still be successful.
Can you take me through some of the, obviously there would have been some tough times in that process, obviously unwinding almost the helix of yourself and BPM wrapped into one. How did you work through that process, and what were some of the things that you found worked?
Well, what I firstly did was I realised I got to an end of a year and we had probably one of the most successful years I'd ever had. And I think the business had 4 times its size, and it was just an incredible year. I mean, especially looking back on it now,
Yeah.
I'd love to have that success right now. And I was devastated. I was completely foul with the year. I only really could look at what we'd done wrong. I thought, geez, I've got to do something about this. This is just not rational. So I got a business coach in, and he went through a process of really showing me everything that we had achieved, and that possibly if I put better systems and processes and better people behind me, we could still have the success, and I could start to enjoy, you know, some of the other things that this amazing life has to offer us. And it just, you know, broadened my mind. It's been a long process. It's something I'm still working on now. I think it will be something that will be with me forever. That driving force to succeed and achieve and do more, that'll never go. But I've been able to go through some of these processes and open my eyes to the world to lessen its intensity.
Do you think that you've found, I guess obviously BPM to start with was very property centric, and now you have a range of businesses that you're across. Do you think that interacting with people more in hospitality or in the tailoring fashion world and things like that have, I guess, broadened your horizons in some senses as to the way that you conduct business?
Well, it has only because I'm able to connect with those people now.
Yeah.
You know, at the height of BPM's success, I was a tyrant, and I didn't connect with people. It was just about, you know, I remember my accountant come to a meeting one day, and he'd been my accountant for 15 years, and he said to me, "You know, Jonathan, you've never offered me a coffee." We would sit down and just go straight into business. I'd never even asked him how he was. Yeah. So I didn't have that ability to connect. So since I've, you know, changed that, and I realised that it's actually human connection that gives me my greatest reward in my life now, way more than any of my success. So I'm connecting with everyone in all of my businesses, and I only do business if I'm passionate about it and I love it and I'm, you know, intensely connected to it. And then I choose people to do business with that I, you know, want to be around, enjoy to be around. And so only since the days of being able to connect with people, it has.
How did you, obviously that's quite a unique piece of the puzzle to come across at, you know, say 35, somewhere in there. How did you, I guess, was there any strategies or tools or things that helped you integrate that piece of human connection? Like obviously you realised that it probably would have been a bit overwhelming to start with, realising that you were the tyrant, that you were the boss, and now you wanted to connect, you know, as a human and as Jonathan rather than just as BPM.
Sure. Look, incredibly confronting, because although I was very extroverted in my business ways, and I call that my Jonathan side, and you know, the caring connection side is like the Johnny side. Yeah. But to bring those two together to one person and be, you know, an amazing businessman and a really caring person that loves to intimately connect with people was incredibly confronting and very hard. Yeah, but so rewarding. My life is so much richer now.
That's good to hear. I'm going to ask you a little bit more of a personal question. What is your favourite failure?
That's a good question. I've always said success is not a good teacher, and I believe that. In my younger years, I was incredibly into the equities market and trading the stock market. And through the tech boom and tech crash, I made a lot of money and lost an enormous amount of money very, very quickly. And I think that without that lesson, I felt that I was invincible. I needed that lesson to pull myself back and feel the pain of the loss and work out that, you know, I didn't know it all. And I think that, you know, I'm able to rationalise now, and any times, even like now, we have areas of business that aren't making money, but it's those losses and times like this that, you know, absolutely we learn the most. It's really hard, you know, tell someone that comes to me and says, "Oh, Jonathan, I just lost everything on, you know, an investment or a business or something like that." And I always say to them, without this lesson, you'll never get to the highs you'll get to without this time. So they're invaluable.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. It's not one that I usually ask. What's your favourite success?
Oh, without a doubt, this building. You know, it was when I was 10 years old, I told my dad I'd build a tower in the city of Melbourne, and you know, it was obviously a bit of a joke at the time. Yeah. So I sort of look at that every business decision I made enabled me to build this tower. You know, it's a privately owned business, BPM, and to do that on my own back was an enormous risk, and you know, it took everything I had to deliver this tower.
Chips were all in?
They were all in, absolutely, the lot.
Did that bring you a certain level of, I guess as you were coming towards completion with Shadow Play, you've pulled off this incredible feat of business success. Was that probably one of the factors that played into then this integration of Jonathan and Johnny?
Yeah, look, I think that because I'd, you know, achieved what from a young age was what I believed my pinnacle would be, it allowed me to rationalise it and calm and realise that I had been successful and I had achieved a lot, and I'd done it on my own, and it gave me a sense of better calm, slow, and not need to constantly do more and achieve more, which allowed me to, assess my life a lot better and give myself the opportunity to actually look at other things, other opportunities, other things that will give me fulfillment than just more.
Now, we've just spoken about sort of the intensity and also the unwinding, but I still think you are one of the most hyper-structured and hyper-disciplined people I know. Take me through some of those daily routines and rituals that make Jonathan tick.
And look, I am about, routine and ritual and consistency, because I think that, it's amazing if you constantly do something every single day, all of a sudden the results come without you specifically realising that they are. So look, I still get up, I'm on the tan at 6 a.m. every morning. I've, obviously up until these recent restrictions, had a personal trainer every single day, or 6 days a week, minimum 5. My eating plan is incredibly, tight and worked out during the week. Weekends I've been letting it go a little bit more, but I'm a big believer in program and ritual and sticking to it no matter what. So my diet's pretty full on, as you know.
I was going to say, to give people a little bit of context, I caught up with Jonathan the other day and he said, I had burgers for dinner last night. And I said, what did you have? And he had a piece of steak patty, inside 2 lettuce leaves. You, obviously, your body is very much, like, you epitomise the body as your temple. How important is all of the success and also having that outer layer of fitness and structure and routine, and how does that all build in together? It's obviously something you place high importance on, so you wouldn't do it if it didn't work.
Look, it absolutely does work. The level of energy it gives me, but also calmness it gives me, is just in way more than I think you could believe in words. You need to actually go through it to believe it. I think I really started it about 15 years ago, and I thought, I wanted to be an inspirational leader. And I looked at the businessman of the 80s, who I call the fat cat 80s. He was arrogant and chauvinistic and huge ego and, a big guy, and, he didn't need to be respected by all of his staff. But I think to be successful now, you need to be a true inspiration. Your staff need to want to work hard for you. And I think that's the greatest inspiration to give someone, is that if they get to a point that they want to work hard, they want to impress you. And to be that, I wanted to be fit and healthy, yes, successful. I wanted to have all the layers that would inspire all of my staff to, want to look at that and say, maybe emulate it or be inspired by it, and know that, well, if I work hard, maybe I'll get this as well.
It's very interesting. I've never heard it put exactly like that. You almost apply this magnifying glass to every aspect of your life, so it holds up to the scrutiny that you receive from the outside world, but not in a negative way, not in a self-conscious way, but rather in a way that you seek to inspire, because you think that you have, gifts to offer the world, and you have learned these lessons, and you can only show them through your actions.
You want to have you want to be fit and healthy, you've got to do all of these things. I looked at, I want to be a truly successful person. What are all of the things I'm going to need to be and do to give myself the best possible chance? And I think being an inspirational leader is the number one right now. You're not going to work hard for somebody you don't like and you don't care about. You're looking for your next opportunity.
What is the book that you gift the most of?
It's called The 5 Languages of Love, and the concept of the book is that we often give to people what we like or what we want. And this is a process that you go through about understanding the people in your life. They can be your love partners or your friends, family, and understanding them better to understand what to give to them and how to work in with them. It's something that I've used across all areas of my life. And it's a very simple read. You read it in 3 days or a couple of days, but it's been profound.
It's excellent. What is one of the best new habits that you've picked up recently?
I've been going to cryo, which, I've always hated the cold. But had someone close to me introduce me to this freezing myself for a few minutes once a week, and up until recently when it closed, it became part of my weekly ritual. And somebody said to me, you get leaner and you get more ripped from it. I thought, well, I've got to give that a go. But really, when I come out of there, especially through this time, I've got, I think we all do have this sort of sense of weight on us, or, feeling of the unknown. And I felt like I'd come out of this freezer and it was gone. I just had this lightness and I had this amazing energy all day. It's been really, really good. I recommend it.
It's very interesting. You discussed a little bit, I guess, about the weight that you feel. Obviously, we're recording this during the COVID-19 pandemic that's gripping the world. Melbourne has been sliding backwards as of recently, and obviously, we had a slight opening of the economy, and now things are getting a little bit more tough. Have there been a few things that you've, I guess, been more drawn towards during this period to find a little bit more comfort or a little bit more security in the place you are? Obviously, BPM is still a huge part of your life, and not being able to run that to its fullest potential in this period would be quite difficult. There's some sort of tools and strategies that you found outside of crime?
Yeah, look, it's incredibly confronting not being able to be your best and or have the opportunities to be your best, and this is certainly one of them. Look, again, I go back to the exercise. If I didn't do those morning walks or runs that I've been doing, I wouldn't, I'd be that edge, thinking about what have I not done, what can I, not achieving, what does then this mean I'm not going to be able to afford or do, and, every day I get my calls from my friends in LA, and they have a lot more freedom, and they're sitting out in the sun, and, it's incredibly confronting. So again, I just go back to, I've been able just to slow it all down and sit in that and use that time to maybe look at other areas that I can get fulfillment from, or still feel successful from. And so that's where I've totally transferred my body to a whole new level through this time. I'm the fittest I've ever been. I'm 45. I can definitely say I'm the fittest and healthiest of my life. And to me, that's a real success through this. And if I get that to sustain the businesses and we don't lose them, even with all of the obstacles I've got ahead, I will still feel successful from that. And that's given me a real sense of comfort.
You mentioned LA in there. It's obviously a place that's quite close to your heart. How did that develop, and take me through, I guess, not only the business side, you've obviously just opened a venue in LA most recently. You've got another one that's coming up very shortly as well, post-COVID and everything happening over there as well. But also take me through the personal side. You've obviously the other side of the world from Melbourne, but what did you find in LA that was different?
I went there a couple of times with a friend that had lived there for a long time, so we went there on holiday, and I very quickly realised that there was a different culture there around success, and people that wanted to be successful, people that spoke about it. I just don't feel there is the tall poppy syndrome there at all. I also found people talk about, or I say I love going to LA, and they think, that's a superficial place of hollow, shallow people. It's not my experience there at all. I felt the minute I started to talk about ideas or things that I wanted to do, I've had a lot of people that wanted to be part of it and genuinely worked hard to be part of it. I've had people say, you should meet this person or that person. You give them their email address. I wake up the next morning, it's all there and the connections are there. It's a high energy place. It's full of incredibly ambitious people. It's a transient city, and people come to LA to find a new way of life and success. So it's full of super high energy, very charismatic, and I say intelligent and committed people to want more out of their life. And so, I have some of my closest friends live there now. A lot of them are Australian actually, but very much living the LA life. And it's a big part of my life, and it's going to be more and more. It'll be a bigger and bigger part of my life as time goes on.
Take us through just quickly the new venues.
Right at the moment, they're all hospitality venues. I've got 3 in development. One has opened. It's called Soul Strings of Life, and it's on Melrose Avenue in West Hollywood. It's sort of opened 2 days before the worst timing. We opened it 2 days later. It closed because of COVID. Then it went through the riots, and it got robbed and vandalised. It's now recently reopened, and it's been surprisingly successful. We're actually really surprised because Melrose Avenue's mostly closed due to the vandalism and rebuilding of it, and obviously COVID, but it's doing really well. I've got another venue opening early next year now. It was due to open in a couple of months, but we pushed it out to early next year due to the COVID. That's called Grandmaster Recorders. It's in Hollywood. It overlooks the Hollywood sign. It's going to be an incredible venue. And then I've got another one in downtown, which is another Strengths of Life, which will open early next year as well.
Amazing. It'll be good to hopefully jump on the plane soon.
Yeah,
visit.
Yeah, we'll see. Don't know when that'll be.
What is one of the best investments of time or money that you've made over the last 25 years of business?
I would say it was my business coach. It's a guy named Peter Fitzgerald, and he came in at a time of probably the greatest growth and success at BPM, but probably my greatest torment in it of, I had this insatiable appetite that, was never going to be fulfilled. And he went through this process of firstly showing me everything that we had achieved, comparing it to the world, and, letting me sort of rationalize that. And he helped me, build a corporate structure that could much more easily deliver and give me the support that I needed. And really, he had a psychological background as well, and allowed me to just slow things down that little bit to enjoy it and get some fulfillment from it.
You touched on the psychology. Do you think understanding a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes has helped you? You obviously seem a little bit, you are sort of addicted to knowledge. You are very knowledgeable about fitness and very knowledgeable about business and property, and you really obviously immerse yourself in the world if it's your focus. Is that something that helped you during that period, getting a better grip of what actually is going on?
Look, it's a bit of a catch-22, because this driving force that I had enabled the success, but enabled the success in a pretty tormented way. But gaining the learnings allowed me to calm it down, but then it's not having the driving success that I had. So, but I'm much happier and much more fulfilled now. And certainly understanding myself, why was I in such torment? Why did I need to achieve so much? Was a great learning. I highly recommend it. It's very exciting. If you're a person that loves to learn, loves to know, you're learning this, everything about yourself. It's been an amazing process.
What are some of the, some of the words that you would have for a college student or someone finishing university about the real world?
I think it's that, Australia is a very competitive, very sophisticated market, and it's really not easy. And it's one thing I've had a lot of people admire successful people, and we say, I would love to have what they've got, I'd love to be what they've got. But if you really get down to the nuts and bolts of how that person lives their life day to day, and the amount they've sacrificed, maybe you don't want it. And I think it's worth, even from a young age, saying, what do I want from my life? Is it that I want this success, and am I prepared to sacrifice all of these things to get it? Or well, no, it'd be okay not being so successful, or whatever that means to you, and then living a more broad and more rounded and life that has much more experience than just maybe singular. So I would say to a young person, really assess what it's going to take to get what you think you might want. Then you may not want it.
In reflection, would you have done anything differently?
Yeah, I would have backed it off 20% and spent that 20% on building relationships and having more life experience and being a more rounded, worldly person. As I said, I can't tell you the number of times my friends just shake their head and say, "Oh my God, Jonathan, you're so naive." Like, they're just dumbfounded how naive I am. And it's purely, I just haven't lived the life that they've lived. Yeah. I don't have their life experiences. I haven't travelled, and even the number of relationships and things like that, I just haven't had them. Not until more recently. So it's, I would choose to back it off. I didn't need to give that last 20%.
Do you feel like you're playing catch up at all?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. So, I've certainly, whatever direction I've taken, I would, do that to the extreme. And, I would certainly say I'm taking the leisure side and life experience side, to the extreme now.
I think that's a very that's an amazing takeaway for someone listening to this that's, 22, 23, about to set out into the world, and I guess sitting down and thinking about where you want to go and the direction you want to take things before you actually take the jump.
Yeah, but really understanding what it's going to take if you make that decision is what I would be getting an understanding of. Like I said, a lot of people admire the successful but don't really understand what it's taken to get there.
The interesting paradox with this, I guess, line of thought is you probably would have encountered more people that are 20% short of where they need to be as far as their actions mapping towards their ambitions than you find people that are 20%, that are at 120% and actually just need to come back to 100 or 100 back to 80. How do you remedy that with, I guess, someone that you're mentoring or someone that you're speaking with, ensuring that they are actually mapping towards the things that they say that they want, but also not reaching the point of burnout or torment, as you put it?
Well, I think it's, again, be going through the process of what they want, working out a plan to get it, and making sure that they're going to be able to do that comfortably. It's a bit like, the health and fitness side. We all say we want to get healthy and fit and ripped, but I wouldn't actually recommend that to everybody, because that's going to be an incredibly hard process for some. For someone else, it's just so easy. I actually find it really easy to, stick to a health plan and get up at 6 in the morning and do it. That's just easy for me. Someone else, super hard. A bit like in business. If the process looks like huge amounts of sacrifice and really, really hard, then we would back it off and then talk about how they can fulfill their life in other ways. But it's just about plan. But it's about truly understanding what your goals are and what it's going to take to get them, and are you prepared to do it? And do you want to do it?
It's very interesting because I've seen this firsthand. We had a discussion about fitness a month or so ago, and in that conversation, you were very complimentary, and you said you look good, you look fit and healthy, and you're obviously capable of doing all of the things that you want to do. Why is it that you want more, or why is it that you want? And it actually made me, for the first time, sit down and go,
with this conversation.
Yeah, I actually have to sit there and think, why do I want what I'm telling you that I want? And we worked through that over the course of a couple of weeks, and I've now put in place a plan that I guess is a little bit more structured and a little bit more around getting to something that I actually want. But I think you're the first person that's ever questioned something that I wanted. Saying, do you really want that? Are you prepared to actually do what it takes? And I guess for me,
it's more not even being prepared to. Will you enjoy to do what it takes? Yeah. Sacrifice doesn't have to be horrible and terrible and really, really hard. I think that's the question. It's not just, are you prepared to? Will you live happily and comfortably doing sacrificing? See, in all the sacrifices that I made, it wasn't difficult for me. I used to even just say there was no choice in the matter. I didn't have a choice, I had to do it. So it's not that it needs to be so hard. I think if you're fighting against it, like you're on this crazy strict diet, it feels like a horrible diet every day, do not do it. Find another way.
Yeah, I love that. What are some of the bad recommendations you hear, I guess, mentors and coaches and just generally people out in the world give to other people, whether it's life?
I would say number one is get married early. I think, getting married is the biggest decision of your life. Making a decision of that magnitude at a very young age is too big a risk. I think you need to have lived life, work yourself out, gone through highs and lows and losses and gains to work out the person you are, to work out the person that you want to live the rest of your life with. Because when you get it wrong, it can go horribly wrong. When you get it right, it can be the most incredible thing in your life. And that's not a decision I think a really young person should make.
Do you think that there's, obviously the part of that you touched on is self-discovery, and that's the key element. It's less about age per se, but more about what you know about yourself. Obviously that's not something that you learn at school or university or on a job site. Is there any ways that you would suggest that someone could fast track that process for themselves if they're sitting there at maybe 21, 22, they might be in a relationship, not in a relationship, and there's all these things that they want. what are the things that you would do to fast track that process?
The only thing I'd probably recommend is to be really open-minded. You might be in your little clingy group that's very comfortable and easy, but broaden your horizons. Make friends with people outside of your network and outside of your work and outside of people you even think you would be friends with. Again, experience travel and just experience life not in the predictable way that maybe you thought it was set out for you. It doesn't have to be what's right or wrong. There's no right or wrong.
About living in the grey a little bit more so.
Yeah, or just be open-minded.
In the last 5 years, what is something that you've gotten better at saying no to?
Oh, I'm horrible at saying no. Everyone in my life says it to me. I'm absolutely terrible at it. It's a good question. I'm not better at it. I think it's something I've worked really hard at trying to do. I'm always the person that loves to organise and plan and make it all happen. And my favourite thing is to organise all of my closest people and make it amazing for them. And I love to see people really happy and achieve a lot and come along this ride with me. So I'm a yes person.
What are 3 practical tips? If someone was going to fast forward through this whole conversation and just take away 3 tips from Jonathan Hallinan to make their life 1% better, what would those 3 things be?
I think the number one tip, I think it probably sums it up, I don't think I need to give you 3, it's just this one. It's that I've always said that the risk of being out is greater than the risk of being in. You can relate that to many things. I've always related it to the property market. I got into the property market at 19, and if I hadn't have, I never would have been able to catch it. At that time, the market was at this bottom of a boom. I couldn't earn money fast enough to catch that market. So it's about, people say, oh, I've got to, I've done this, or I've got to buy the better place, or I've got to. It's not about that. It's just do what you can do and do it today and be in the game. Be in it. Because once you're in it, you're going to learn it. If you're not in it, you're not going to learn it. You're not interested enough to learn it. I remember somebody said to me, my first development was a land survey, and he said, have I done a feasibility on the project? I was 19, I didn't even know what a feasibility was. I'm building a unit on the back as everyone else is doing. But the process of doing those 2 units, my first project, my God, I learned so much. But if I hadn't have done it, just tried to learn it all before doing it, time's already flying. You've got to be in it to win it.
Do you think that extends more personally to a concept of being in the present?
I think that's a different conversation, but being present in the moment, that's a hugely valuable trait if you can do that.
Do you think it's something that you've become better at? You talked about measuring, I guess, life as being a scale of black to white with a lot of grey in the middle a little bit earlier. Do you think that's part of, I guess, experience, is just being in it?
Look, I always look at, say, being in the moment or being incredibly present it's a bit of a luxury, because you can't have it all. I mean, you can't be driving for success and wanting more and be at the start of your cycle and also be present all the time with wherever you are, because your mind's thinking, how am I going to make the next deal, or how am I going to get this delivered, what are all my risks? While you're learning, you can't be really, really present. I think that's a later luxury. Not you can't have it at all, but to be completely present all the time is I believe in dreaming as well. And while you're dreaming, you're not present.
Tell me about that.
Well, a dream is about something that if I'm sitting here with you and I'm working out my next deal and I'm dreaming about it and how I'm going to make it happen, or, even just planning it, I'm not here with you. I'm not 100% present with you. You can't have it all.
And what does dreaming look like for Jonathan Hallinan in 2020? You've had 25 years of hard work, but also incredible success with BPM. You're now in LA. The second venue's finished and ready to roll out post-COVID, and then on to the next one. What do those dreams look like? Is it business? Is it more personal? Is it experiences?
Look, I think it's a hard time right now to be a big dreamer of great things. I think for me, it's my dreams right now are getting through this time. Not losing anything, sustaining what I've got. I'm certainly not in the moment of trying to dream big things right now. It's about being comfortable with just sustaining what I've got and holding that. I think that's a better, smarter place to be right now than the big, massive dreams of, you need the economy running with you, and you need that, that energy that we just don't have here right now.
I think that's an absolutely excellent place to leave it. Jonathan
Okay.
Hallinan, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.